How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Gimel, Daf 33 of Masechta Nazir. Friends, who could tell me what's very unique, what's very interesting, what the claim to fame of Daf Lamed Gimel of Masechta Nazir is? Who could tell me? Friends, if I'm not mistaken, Daf Lamed Gimel of Masechta Nazir is the shortest daf in all of Shas. If I'm not mistaken. I went to yeshiva after high school. I went to yeshiva, and at the yeshiva on Rosh Hashanah they would have a auction. They would do in all the synagogues they auction things off for money. So at the yeshiva they would auction things off for hours of learning or blot of Gemara. So Nebuch, anybody who would auction, who would donate, blot of Gemara, pages of Gemara, and they actually cared to honor their commitment, man, you would see them just doing this daf over and over and over. It's the shortest daf in all of Nazir. If they actually, you would have the people who would commit to learning 1,000 daf. Who's going to learn 1,000 daf? 1,000 daf is 3. They're going to learn 3 daf a day. Every day for a whole year without missing. So they just find this daf and just read it over and over and over. So that's today's daf, friends. But the thing is, this might not actually be the shortest daf in Babylon Talmud for 2 reasons. A, because I was just schmoozing for 2.5 minutes. I think the shortest daf in Babylon Talmud was a 5-minute daf or something. We already, I already took about half of the time. But oichit, we're going to do a little bit of daf lamed beis and we're going to basically do daf lamed aleph because we'll just get up to the new parak. So tomorrow we'll start with the clean parak, and it may as well, because after all, daf lamed gimel is all of 1, 2, 3, 4. The entire daf is 6 lines. So you may as well get a little bit ahead. Alright. So we're going to start in Daf Lamed Beis at the Mishnah. So we saw this already, I think, Taka yesterday. Maybe 2 days ago. 3 days ago, ich weiß nicht. They were Taka walking. And a fellow was coming in their direction. Now you have 6 guys over here. Reuven says, I'm a Nazir if this is so-and-so. The next guy, he says, Shimon says, I'm a Nazir if it's not so-and-so. Levi says, I'm a Nazir if one of you is a Nazir. And Yehuda says, I am a Nazir if one of Reuven or Shimon is not a Nazir. And then Yisachar says, I am a Nazir if Reuven and Shimon are Nazirim, Shekulchem Nazirim, and then Zvulun says, I am a Nazir if all 5 of you are Nazirim, Beishami Omim Kula Nazirin. Beishami says, well, all of them are Nazirs. Beisil Omim Eino Nazir Ela Mishalonis Kaimudvarv. Interesting. So Beisil says the only ones who are Nazirs are the ones who their stipulation was not met. Now the Gemara, of course, is going to ask, if your stipulation is not met, why would you be a Nazir? Good child. Reb Tarfon Omer, Reb Tarfon hat gesagt, ein echad mei Nazir, that nobody is a Nazir. None of them are a Nazir. You see, what if after these guys are, making their fancy statements, the guy turns around and leaves? So some guy is coming their way, and everyone starts saying, Reuven's I'm a Nazir if it's so-and-so. Shimon says, I'm a Nazir if it's not so-and-so. Levi's I'm a Nazir if one of you is a Nazir. Everyone's making all these bets based on if this guy's a Nazir, but they don't, if this guy is so-and-so, but they don't actually know yet until he gets closer, and then he turns around and goes away. And now they're just never going to know. Eino Nazir. So nobody is going to be a Nazir. Wait, what? Here, Sir Lachorv Eino Nazir, right? So he's not. So nobody there is a Nazir. Okay, nobody's a Nazir. Reb Shimon Omer Yomar Im Hoyer Kidvarai Hareini Nazir Nazir Chova V'Im Lav Hareini Nazir Nedava. Reb Shimon says, look, what he should do is he should say, look, if it was so and so, so then I'm a Nazir Chova, then I'm a Nazir because it's so and so. And if it's not so and so, well then I'm volunteering to be a Nazir, and that way he'll just be a Nazir, and that's that. Whether by obligation or whether by choice. Says the Gemara, Mishalon is Kaimu Devar, Mayavi Nazir. Beis Hillel had said that the one who his words were not Mikuyim, the one whose stipulation was not met, will be a Nazir. Frek the Gemara, what you guys must have all been thinking, I don't understand. If his stipulation was not met, why in the world would it be a Nazir? If his stipulation is met, he should be a Nazir. If his stipulation is not met, he's a Nazir? I don't even know what to say. Amar Rav Yehuda, Mishin is Kaimu Dvarav. So rather flip it around. Don't say Misha alone is Kaimu Dvarav. Fakert. Say Mishin is Kaimu Dvarav. Whoever, so if Reuven says, I'm a Nazir, if it's so-and-so, and it is so-and-so, so then he's a Nazir. Okay. Abai Omer says Abai, Kigon to Omar, Inami Lab Plonihu Iavi Nazir. So Abai says, well, when it's talking, when it says that he's a Nazir, if his words were not met, it's talking about a situation where he also said, initially he said that, Reuven says, I'll be a Nazir if it's so-and-so, but then he says, Inami, alternatively, at the same time, Lab Plonihu Iavi Nazir. But even if it's not so-and-so, I'll also be a Nazir. Then what does it mean that his words were not met? It means if his initial statement was not met, right, that he said, I'll be a Nazir if it's so-and-so, but it turns out not to be so-and-so, so his initial statement was not met, but he said, but alternatively, if it's not so-and-so, I'll also be a Nazir, so therefore he's a Nazir because of that other statement. So, his initial statement was not met, but but ultimately, though, he also said, even if it's not so-and-so, I'll still be a Nazir. So that's why we say that, even if his words, i.e. his initial words, were not met, he's still going to be a Nazir. So the Mishnah had said that if the guy turns around, then he's not a Nazir. Because we'll never know. So it says the Gemara is medayik. So it says that if he turns around and goes away, now we'll never know if it was so-and-so or not. So the Mishnah had said that if he turns around, so nobody's a Nazir. Implying that if he didn't turn around, and if he shows up, and then we can figure out, is it so-and-so or isn't so-and-so? Well then, if it's so-and-so, Reuven's going to be a Nazir. Because Reuven had said, if it's so-and-so, he's a Nazir. Money. So then whose opinion would that be? By the way, Lamed Gimel is over now. That was like all of Lamed Gimel. Lamed Gimel was like literally the last 3 minutes. That was all of Lamed Gimel. Now we're on Lamed Dalet. We started 8 minutes ago. We started on Daf Lamed Beis. We're already on Daf Lamed Dalet. But we're going to go weiter on Daf Lamed Dalet. Ilem Reb Tarfin. If we say so, who says this? Who says that if he turns around and goes away, then nobody's a Nazir, but if he comes and we can find out if it's so-and-so, and if it is so-and-so, then Reuven's a Nazir. Whose opinion is that? Ilem Reb Tarfin. If we say it's Reb Tarfin, Miavi Nazir, would he be a Nazir? No way, no how. Given the B'shaita de Nazir, Lo Yada, I Plonihu, V'ilo, since at the time that they made their stipulations, let's just say Reuven for now, since at the time that Reuven made his stipulation, that'll be a Nazir if it's so-and-so, he didn't know yet if it's so-and-so or not. So Michala Ole Nazirus, would Reuven be a Nazir even when he shows up and we determine that it is in fact so-and-so? But after all, we learn about Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Reb Tarfin, says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Reb Tarfin, like we saw in our Mishnah, Ein Echad Me'en Nazir, that none of them are Nazirs. When you have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zvulun, none of them are going to be Nazirs. As we've seen in Masechta Nedarim already, that according to Reb Tarfin, Naziris is le'afla. You have to be specific when it comes to stating Naziris. You can't just say, I'll be a Naziris if it's so-and-so. No ifs or buts or whatevers. You say, I'm going to be a Nazir. That's how you become a Nazir. You don't say, I'm going to be a Nazir if this unclear condition is met. No, it doesn't work like that. When you're declaring your Naziris, you declare it with, I'm not sure the word I'm trying to think of. Like in a way that there's no doubt about it. You declare it you declare it in a way that there's no doubt about it. What's a word for that? There's definitely a word for that. You declare it chad mashma'i. Okay. Fine. And therefore, Reb Tarfon would not say, right, meaning our Mishnah implies that if he would show up, if he would show up and it turns out it's so and so, our Mishnah is saying that Reuven would be a Nazir. So that's not Reb Tarfon, because Reb Tarfon would say that he would not be a Nazir. Ella, Reb Yehuda dechrihu, bara. We've seen this a few times. Reb Yehuda of the pile, the Tanya's within the Brayso, already Nazir amanas shei b'chriyazem me'ekor. That if a fellow says that he's going to be a Nazir under the condition that such and such a pile has in it 100 cores, and then they went to go check if there's in fact 100 cores or not, and if there's 100 cores he's a Nazir, and if not then not. And it turns out that it was stolen or it's lost, and now they'll never know. Reb Shimon also Reb Yehuda matir. So Reb Shimon says he's nonetheless a Nazir. And Reb Yehuda says, no, he's not a Nazir. So, if I understand correctly, the point is that Reb Yehuda is saying, because we'll never know, he's not a Nazir. Just like in our Mishnah, the guy turns around and walks away, so nobody's a Nazir, because we'll never know. But, if they would have showed up and the pile was there, and it turns out that there's 100 core, you better bet your bottom dollar that it'll be a Nazir. So here also, if the guy shows up and it turns out it's so-and-so, Reuven's going to be a Nazir. Now, explaining the opinion of Reb Shimon, right there, Reb Shimon says that by the pile, if it turns out that it's there, right, that it's lost, so then he's going to be a Nazir. So Reb Shimon Sover came into ilu lo nignov dilma havu b'me'akor v'avi Nazir. Well, since if the pile was not stolen, then it may have had 100 core in it, right? And he would have been a Nazir if there was 100 core in it. Hashtanami avi Nazir. So therefore, now as well, he has to be a Nazir out of Suffolk, and therefore also in explaining our Mishnah, Kaven the or in our Mishnah, Reb Shimon says, Kaven the also the common v'adin and defloni avoy have a Nazir ashtanami have a Nazir. So in our Mishnah as well, since if he wouldn't have turned around, if he would come and he would, since if he would not have turned around and he would come, and it would turn out that he's so and so. And therefore Reuven would have to be a Nazir. So therefore because there's that possibility, even when he turns around and leaves, still Reuven has to be a Nazir out of Suffolk, and also the rest of them. And what Reuven would say is that, well, if it was so and so, then I'll be a Nazir Chova, I'll be a Nazir out of obligation. And if it wasn't so and so, then I will be a Nazir out of my own volition. But according to Reb Shimon, you have to be concerned that you are in fact a Nazir. Okay? Masnisin says the final Mishnah of the fifth parak of Masechta Nazir. A fellow sees a koi. Now a koi is an animal that it is unclear if it is a behema or a chaya, if it is a domesticated animal or an undomesticated animal. The Omar, and the fellow says, Hareini Nazir sheze chaya. And Reuven says, I am a Nazir if this is a chaya. Okay, we don't know if it's a chaya or a behema. Hareini Nazir sheze eino chaya. Shimon says, I am a Nazir if this is not a chaya. Hareini Nazir sheze behema. Levi says, I am a Nazir if it's a behema. Hareini Nazir she'ein ze behema. Yehuda says, I'm a Nazir if it's not a behema. Hareini Nazir sheze chaya uvehema. Yisachar says, I am a Nazir that this is a chaya and a behema. Hareini Nazir she'ein ze lo chaya v'lo behema. Zvulun says that I am a Nazir if it is neither a chaya nor a behema. Hareini Nazir she'echad mikem Nazir. Don says, I am a Nazir if one of you are a Nazir. Okay, fine. Hareini Nazir she'ein echad mikem Nazir. Naphtali says that he's a Nazir if none of them are Nazirs. Hareini Nazir shekulchem Nazirin. And God says that I'm a Nazir if all of you are Nazirim. Hare kulam Nazirin. All of them are Nazirim. Okay. Says the Gemara, Tani chada tisha Nazirim v'tani idach tisha Naziriyos. So one brisa says 9 Nazirs, like we just learned in our Mishnah, that all 9 of these individuals Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yisachar, Zvulun, Dan, Naphtali, and Gad. What? Was that only 8? Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad. Yeah. That's 9. So one brisa says that there's 9 Nazirs, and that's like we saw in our Mishnah. V'tanidach teishin Nazirios. But a different brisa says that there are 9 Nazir experiences for one individual. Well, I understand that you can have 9 individuals becoming Nazirs, like we explained in our Mishnah. There's 9 people, and each one kind of, says, I'm going to be a Nazir if this, that, whatever. So there's 9 of them. How do we have a situation where you have 9 Nazir experiences for one fellow? I understand that we can get to the first 6, right? If the guy says, I'm a Nazir, if it's a behema, I'm a Nazir. If it's not a behema, I'm a Nazir. If it's a chaya, I'm a Nazir. If it's not a chaya, I'm a Nazir. If it's a chaya and a behema, if it's neither a chaya nor a behema. So that's 6. Aval plus, how do you get the final 3? So it says of Sheishes that the way you can get one fellow with 9 Nazir experiences is if you have a 10th guy who comes and says, I'm a Nazir like all of you. So there are 9 of them, so he has 9 Nazir experiences after they all made themselves in Nazirs with their various statements. Friends, it's funny, that was Daf Lamed Gimel of Masechta Nazir, but we spent way more time on Lamed Beis and Lamed Daled than we actually did on Lamed Gimel, because of course Lamed Gimel is the shortest daf in all of Shas. And with that as far as I know, and with that we wrap up the 5th parak of Masechta Nazir, and we talked about all these crazy probabilities when it comes to being a Nazir.